This is the concierge, sir.
And welcome everybody to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and in this very special episode, we're actually going to be previewing where to watch the big games for the beginning of the college football and the NFL seasons. So this episode is actually going to be highlighting, sports books in particular and other places that I know where you can watch the games and things you have to know before you visit Las Vegas, because simply just watching a game in or on the Las Vegas Strip has become much more difficult than you think in the last couple of years. So we're going to be highlighting that here on Concierge Confidential. Okay, everybody, so let's go ahead and dive into previewing college football and the beginning of the NFL season and where you can watch all of these games. So I know I get a lot of people actually requesting and asking, where can I watch the games? And this is the funny thing, is that I work in sports betting, so I get a lot of people on Twitter talking about how Circa is the only place to watch the games and this and that. And the thing is that Circa is actually, if I didn't work at Circa, not my style of sports book, but I know for a lot of people it is. So it just depends on what you are looking for in particular for any viewing experience. So I think it's important to, look around and see what caters to you. The reason that I tell people that Circa is not my style of sportsbook that I like is that I don't like to have to, sit. I like to be able to stand up, walk around, get out of my seat. I'm not a big sitter. I like to walk. And the thing is that the sports book at Circa isn't meant for people to stand around just because of the limitations in terms of its the way it's constructed. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you kind of the basics of what it's like to watch games here on these big weekends. So you have to understand that Vegas and sports betting in particular has become much more intertwined and a much more important part of the whole experience part of watching these games. Days have passed of when you'd be able to walk into any sports book and any casino and you just walk in, find a spot, just got to get there early and you're good to go. But as sort of sports have grown and become more important, especially football because it's all on one day, restaurants and bars and even sports books at this point have found other ways to monetize their book. And that's really something that many people don't know, that sports books historically did not make a lot of money for the casino. It was more of an amenity for the properties. And when I was in school doing my casino classes, that was what was taught. It was basically slot machines make the most for the casino. Then you have the table games. Then you have, anything else. But then you would have like the sports book, and then you would have like the poker rooms, because poker rooms don't, they take a rake, but it's not a very large sum. Because the way that the economics work out is, if let's just say you're betting on the Super Bowl and you have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles on one side, the sportsbook is really hoping for even action on both sides of the table. They're hoping for an even number of people who bet on the Chiefs and an even number of people who bet on the Eagles. And they will fluctuate numbers based on, that particular point, because they want essentially one side to win and the other side loses. So they basically get 50% of that, and they want to be kind of on the other side, on the correct side of that winner. So that's kind of the way that sportsbooks operate. Obviously, it has changed with online sportsbooks becoming much more of a part of the ecosystem. They have a lot more parlays. They have a lot more prop bets and things of that nature, where we're able to sort of get a little bit more of your money, essentially. Just different avenues. But in terms of the sports books inside of the casinos, those used to be just dead spaces. Like, it was like you saw people place bets on the game. They would sit in their seat for 8 hours. That game would hit or not hit. Let's just say 3 hours as an example. They put $100 on a game and sit there for 3 hours. All they're spending really is $100. And you used to be able to get a free drink ticket. So that's, let's just say $20-$30. So they essentially took you for $100. They only had to spend $100, and they actually got $15 to $30 of a drink out of you. And let's just say they lose that game. You're basically netting $70 profit. So that's very simplistic way of putting it, obviously. So the casinos don't want that. They want to be able to monetize you sitting in that chair. And really, it was all changed when Circa built their Stadium Swim and their Circa Sportsbook, because they found out a way to monetize those spaces. It used to really only be for like the Super Bowl that the sportsbooks would, charge for their seats inside of it. And nowadays, every Sunday, every big event, you have to pay to be able to sit in those chairs. Obviously, we're talking on the Strip, and of course, one specific place downtown. Local places, they don't really have these hang-ups. Like a really good example that I can give you is a place like South Point. South Point, which is, my kind of local casino. Very old school. It's an old school book. It's also owned by, a family. It's not owned by a corporation. So they run things very differently than, like, say, Stations Casinos or the M, or any place on the Strip, where they're trying to monetize each space, and it's not like, hey, we're cool. They have to be able to monetize these things. So you can't blame the sports books for that. It's just part of doing business. And I have to say, for people who are coming for an experience like that, are a group of 6 to 8 guys, this is a great option, just because you're able to pay for sort of the space, and then you're able to sort of treat it sort of like a nightclub or day club atmosphere with sports on. And that's really what we're focusing on for these things. Obviously, women come and do these too as a group, but this is a very, very interesting subset of that part of Las Vegas. So I want to go ahead and just sort of jump into it. So some of my favorite sports books in terms of just the screen itself has to be Circa. It's really fantastic. It's brilliant. They can have so many games on the screen. They usually have the sound on whatever game is, front and center. And it's really, really crisp. Really, the technology is the best part of how that viewing experience goes. So that's why it's ranked one of the best ones, because it's so big. And that's what really people want to see. They want to see that big screen experience. One of my other favorite places that's, on the Strip, it used to be so many good spots, but it's really hard to find now. But I really enjoy like Mandalay Bay's old school look to it, where it's just this big open air space. And when I think of a nice sports book in Las Vegas, I think a big, airy, open area. I don't like sort of the dark, dingy spots, which you get a lot of at like Planet Hollywood. Paris is kind of like that. I mean, Aria. The thing is, it's so funny that Aria is such a beautiful hotel and has one of the ugliest sports books on the entire Strip. It's unequivocally one of the ugliest sports books ever. The funny thing is that if I have anybody who's into sports betting come and talk to me about this, I feel like I am an authority on what a nice sports book looks like. It's all relative, obviously, because it depends on what your style is. But I can tell you that sports book is shit. The Aria Sportsbook is not good for the level or caliber of hotel that it is. Honestly, the sportsbook at the Excalibur is better than the sportsbook at the Aria. There's obviously differences, but you want a space that's much bigger and very democratic. I love the fact that you have to show up early to get your spot, and you just don't see that anymore. It's a much different time than what it used to be when I used to go to sports books to watch games. I honestly will not watch football if it's like, let's just say a Sunday night, just a regular Sunday on the Strip. I just won't. It's too expensive. I don't like the sort of elitist feel of having to pay so much to watch these games, and it feels so undemocratic to not let people watch these games. So I go to places. I love Twin Peaks. I love that you can get there early. You get your spot. You're good. There's no like fee for sitting there. I don't like that. So I don't know. That's just me. But you guys are going to be here on the Strip, so I need to sort of highlight the places that you're able to find these things and give you some prices. So if you are going to go to the Mecca of sports betting, which would be Circa here in Las Vegas now, they obviously have their giant sports book. They do charge for their reserve chairs, so they have a couple different options. They have their reserve chairs. They also have their reserve chair, the reserve chairs. They have their booths. They have their loungers. Then they also have some like top level chairs on the second floor, which sit in front of some video poker machines, which actually provide a really great view, but there's a price to that, which we'll get to in a second. So let's go in and talk about prices. So if you're going to be grabbing just a regular chair, sort of towards the edges, so all the chairs are on the edges of the Circa Sportsbook, you're going to be looking to pay $400 for that rental fee for the entire day. So that's going to get you those chairs, your one reserved chair, between 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, which will cover essentially the entire day. So those chairs are very much, stadium-style chairs that you would get at like a football stadium. They do have a little sort of table that will flip open. You're able to order from Victory Burger or the barbecue restaurant outside for an extra charge. So it's important to note that this $400 fee is a rental fee. That's going to be very different than when we're talking about later, which is a food and beverage minimum, which those are what you want. This is my one tip for when you book things like this. If you're going to be paying a food and beverage minimum, those are better than paying for a rental fee. Rental fee do have sales tax on top of them, so just keep that in mind. For food and beverage, that includes the food and beverage minimum, whatever it may be, and then it also has the sales tax, and then it also has a automatic gratuity, which is typically added on to that as well. So you have to keep in mind that when you do food and beverage minimum, if it says it's $500, it's probably going to be more like $600 or $700, depending on the sales tax and the gratuity amount and all that other good stuff. So keep that in mind as we go forward. But if you're looking to buy just a regular rental chair, $400 at Circa, which right now they still have some available, and you do prepay the entire $400 up front. So let's just say you're coming with your group. A group essentially is 4 or more people. If you are a couple, you are purchasing 2 chairs. But if you're going to be a group purchasing some of these tickets, they do have a section which is called the Circa Club Lower Level. That's sort of like prime seating. That's $6,500 for the entire day. You can split these up, so just keep that in mind, that if you split them up in the morning, which is 9 to 4:30, you're looking at $5,000. And if you're looking for the evening, that would be from 5 to 9 p.m. So what that means is, essentially, is if you just want to watch the daytime games, which essentially is all the games, the ones that start at 10 o'clock and the ones that start at 1:30. By the way, those of you visiting from the East Coast, our games start at 10 o'clock in the morning here in Las Vegas. So hopefully when you wake up, you don't think the game's at 1, the ones that are the first games of the day. That is not the case. They will start at 10 a.m., so you got to get up and early. But anyways, 5. So this goes from 9 o'clock to 4:30. That's right before the nighttime game. That's $5,000. If I were you, I would just do that, just because you can watch the Sunday night game anywhere. But if you want to do the full day, it's $6,500 for the entire day. That can fit up to 6 people at one of those tables. It's basically like an extra large booth at a restaurant. So you do have quite a bit of space. They are leather couches. And again, that is a food and beverage minimum, okay? So remember, food and beverage minimum. So you're going to get wings, you can get drinks, you can get buckets of beer, you can get bottle service, whatever you like. They also have the upper club level, which is about the same price, $6,500, also for 6 people. Those are essentially the same thing, just differing on the location of where you're sitting at. They do also have the a smaller version, which can add up to 4 people, which does differ in price. So those prices, you're going for about $1,000 if you get the entire thing. So I think it's $5,000 for the corner seats. It's also $5,000 for the inner seats. I'm sorry. So the inner ones are actually for 2, and that would be $1,000 total. So keep that in mind. Could be $1,200. And then the corners add up to 4 people. So just keep that in mind when you book these. But they also have their plush loungers, which are big leather lounger chairs. Those are $800. And that is all-inclusive. So that one is all-inclusive as well. So important to note when you're booking on their website, which you can, just go to circalasvegas.com. Go to the sportsbook and make sure you check off the date that you'd like. And that's where you find the prices. The ones that better on the balcony box, the very top seating. Those are also $6,000, and that is for, oh my goodness, you can have a capacity up to 10 people in that space. So that's actually a pretty good, not a bad deal. But that is going to be if you're going to be going to Circa, the sports book. But I have a little bit cheaper option for those of you that might want to get a little bit of sun and want to also engage in, the Circa experience. And that one is going to be at their pool. So that's going to be at Stadium Swim. So Stadium Swim does have a few different options. They have this big giant TV. You've probably seen it if you're listening to this podcast about sports books and about sports betting. This place is going to be the one that has that sort of stadium style pool. And they also have a big giant screen, which is going to have all the games. And yes, you can also bet outside as well. So with these, I believe that these actually offer a better value for what you're paying for. You can get a general admission ticket. It's going to be $100. That just gets you in the door. That means you could walk around, do whatever you'd like, but it doesn't give you any seating options. So you're probably going to be in the pool for most of the day. So just plan on, if you get the general admission, that you will be at least at some point in the pool. But if you actually look at this and you have a big group, they do have an option for 10 guests, which is a lower stadium booth seat. That's going to be for the entire day. Actually, this is just afternoon. That's important to note. Yep. So if you're going to be doing, I'm clicking through the boxes here just to give you guys the prices, because there's actually quite a few options for that. So just keep that in mind. So if we are looking at, I keep clicking on the afternoon boxes, which is from 5 to 11, and it's only $500. So there must be a reason for that. This is interesting. Just because I click on the boxes and we're all 5 p.m. or later. So I'm assuming that you're only going to be able to do general boxes at this point, just because it looks like some of the other ones are taken for the day. I'll try to, maybe update it as I go along, but it looks like most of these things are just afternoon options, which is really weird. So check back on that, because this is actually kind of annoying. So anyways, so you can go out and you can watch it outside at Circa Stadium Swim for $100, which I think is actually a really good value if you are just trying to find a spot to watch the games, and that's all you need. Right now, it looks like if you can book the upper cabanas, those are going for $8,000, which that requires a $1,600 deposit. That's up to 12 people. Any of these options, you should have at least 4 or more people to book these. If you can get a group of 10 guys to watch this, that's perfectly fine. But just keep that in mind when you're booking these things, just to, talk with your group. That's really important just to note, just because, again, these things can be very expensive. So keep that in mind. But Circa itself is a good place to watch. I would recommend watching at Stadium Swim if the weather is good. But again, they do raise the prices sometimes, especially at the door. So sometimes pre-booking is the way to go. Also, if you are staying at Circa during that weekend, which will be very expensive because that's really where they make their bread and butter, that is going to be free for you to get into Stadium Swim if you are a hotel guest. So just keep that in mind. So let's go back towards the Strip. So because that was downtown, essentially. Let's go to the Strip. So let's talk about one of my favorite places, and that is the Beer Park. Beer Park's always sort of my favorite default answer for where should I go watch the games. But this is another reason why I don't like watching games on the Strip, because it is so expensive. So if you want to watch at the Beer Park, which to me is one of the marquee places to watch any games on the Las Vegas Strip, just because the vibe, you get that nice outdoor beer garden feel, especially in the daytime, and you get a lot of good TVs. But it's important to note that they are charging per person to sit up at the Beer Park. So depending on where you're sitting at, they do have tables for 2, 4, 6, 8, all these different options. But let's just look at our standard viewing outdoor area. Just a table for 2. That's essentially in the middle part where you can look at both TVs on both sides. Basically, they have a TV setup where they have 4 TVs behind the bar. So 4 and then 4 on the other bar. So that's 8 games essentially. That's going for $150 per person at food and beverage credit. 2-person minimum. You're looking at $300. So that's $300, $150 per person. getting us to that number. So that's actually very doable, especially if you're doing a lot of drinks, if you're going to be there for a long time. This is not a terrible option. But the only problem is that you're kind of like in the center. So it is sort of like these high top extended like this extended table where it's two and two, like looking back at each other. I don't know if you're going to be into that, but I recommend you go on their website, which this is beerpark.com, and they do have where you can pick the date, and there's also a nice little map that shows you what you're looking for. I would recommend you want to be where the bar top tables are, and also where it says high top bar tables. That's going to be where you can reserve. They have their picnic area, which does have TVs as well, but they're okay. You don't want to be at the lookout, because the lookout area, which overlooks the Las Vegas Strip, not a lot of TVs there. So if you're trying to watch a lot of games, the lookout may not be the best option for you. But if you want to watch a game or two, that might be the place to sit. Usually one of the better places to be. They do have an inside area called the main bar, living room, and the den. It looks like the living room would probably be your best option to watch the most games along with the den. But those places are going for about $8,000, and that's going to be, 4 to 6 person minimum for those. So just keep that in mind. Just look at the prices. They'll go ahead and break it down for you, just because, it just depends. But yeah, if they do premium indoor seating, $200 per person. So for sitting at a table of 4, it ends up being an $800 minimum. So again, just keep in mind of these prices. Make sure you book ahead of time. That's really, really important. If a seat is really important to you, you do have to book ahead of time. Obviously, there's going to be places around the properties that will have a lot of the games on. You don't have to be paying these exorbitant prices, but unlike my trick for the Super Bowl, where you just find the really nice high limit, find a nice bar and sit down, you can't really do that on these days, because if you want to watch all these games, you need a place that has the apparatus for this. Another good option, if you'd like, is if you go down to the Park MGM. Park MGM, not always my favorite sports book, but I know a lot of people like the feel of sort of a sports bar look to your sports book. It's not as intimidating. And those tend to be, okay. Again, it's not my cup of tea, but I know a lot of people really, really enjoy that. So why not, just explain to what it looks like. It's a really nice sports book look, or sports bar look, I should say. So for this, I have to check and see if you're able to make reservations for them, or if you can just walk in. I'd really enjoy it if you could just walk into the sports bar. So I'm just kind of clicking through, because this sort of came up last minute for me. So as we're kind of talking, this is a good spot. Another good spot that's right next to Park MGM is the oh my goodness, what's the name of it? The Beer House, or the Beer House is essentially how it's pronounced, and that is on the promenade, or walking to T-Mobile, where they actually have a really, really good set of TVs. It's actually indoor outdoor. It's kind of nice, especially if it's a nice day outside. Really, really great option for anybody trying to sort of like be in the indoor outdoor space there. So I am actually looking for reservations at the Park MGM for that day at the sportsbook. Nothing available. So it looks like they're not doing reservations, and you just get to walk in. So that is definitely something you want to do early, and you want to make sure that you get early to those properties. I like walk-in stuff. I'm totally a fan of it. I did mention this earlier. One of my more favorite places is Mandalay Bay. Mandalay Bay, big, airy. They do have chairs. You can just walk in. It's very old school. You can reserve booths. They don't have very many booths, but it's nice if you just want to walk into a spot. It's a really, really good place to check out any of the games. So let's go ahead and move up the strip to the park. Move up the strip to Fontainebleau. So looking at Fontainebleau, I wasn't able to make a reservation for that place. I actually ended up looking, let's just say for, we're going to look for 10 o'clock, because that's what times the games start. And that's going to be on September 8th. This is for NFL. So I'm using all these numbers for NFL. They are very similar for college football. And college football is basically the entire day. So as we're kind of just looking at it, they don't offer reservations over at the tavern over at Fontainebleau. If you want to, get there really early, which is important. And they do have a nice sort of like front-facing part of the like overlook of the tavern into the sports book that you get a really good view of the TVs. I don't enjoy the seats that are on the bottom, which are food and beverage minimum. They also have like a rental fee. They're exorbitant. They're like $1,200 for that. And they're very low. I don't like this look where it's just sort of low looking up at the TVs, which is very similar to what the Venetian has, which the Venetian used to have a beautiful sports book, but unless you're sitting at the bar, which fantastic bar seating, if you want to sit at the bar at the Venetian, got to get there early. Those places get filled up right away. If you're coming for a 10 o'clock game, you should be at the sportsbook at 9 a.m. And I'm a big proponent of got to get there early. If you want a spot, you have to basically sacrifice your sleep to get there early. So really nice bar at the Venetian. Do not like the seating area for the rest of the sports book. It's not my favorite. I don't like it. My brother watched a whole like college football game there, and they have again these leaning sort of like low chairs, which you're basically sitting at people's kneecaps the entire time. Not a big fan. So get there early, and that's what I recommend. Oh my goodness, I hate people that get there late and say, "Can you move?" That actually happened to me once. I was at Twin Peaks on the Strip. It used to be a great spot to watch the games. I was in my spot, and then this person said, "Can you move a seat over?" Because I was by myself. I said, "Sure." And then these people came again, and it was these couple. It was like had to be 1:30. Had to be like the game started already, and they said, "Can you move over one?" I said, "No, I'm in my spot. I'm not moving." And I didn't move. So that's, get here early. But the tavern, not a bad spot to see the games. A really good place to watch like Sunday night football. This is kind of like a Concierge Confidential tip. Unless, I'm there. Hopefully you're not, because I like this spot. Just because I don't want too many people to go to it. But if you go to Solo at the Fountain Blue, really great place to go if there's like a big event going on, like a UFC fight night, or if you're going for like Sunday night football. They'll always have the game on in there, and no one's ever in there. It's very, very rare. But I like to sit there, have a cocktail, and I watch the game on the TV. It's perfect. It's perfect just for me. I love it. So Solo Bar at Fountain Blue, really good for Sunday night football, just between me and you. So I think I went to the tavern. I went through Park MGM, Beer Park. Let's do one more because everyone really always loves talking about Caesar's Palace. By the way, fun fact, Caesar's Palace is the biggest East Coasters' like wet dream. East Coast people, for some reason, love Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace to somebody from New Jersey is basically like going to heaven. I don't understand why, but if you ever ask somebody from the East Coast, hey, what hotel would you stay at when you visited Las Vegas? And if they've never been here before, they'll always say, oh, well, Caesar's Palace sounds good. They love Caesar's Palace. I don't know if it's marketing or whatever, but that is where they go. So for Caesar's Palace, they have a really cool bar. They have a very long bar, which was redesigned probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And beautiful bar. If you can get there early and get a seat at the bar, it's fantastic. I don't know if they have a spending minimum. They don't have it where you can reserve, so that's a good thing. But if they have a minimum and it's like $200, pay for it, just because if you're going to be there drinking beers all day, you're going to hit that easy. But let's go in and talk about the prices. So if you end up going to Caesar's Palace, they do have two options. They have the row 4 package, which is the 4th row from the tellers, which would be like premium seating essentially at this point. Then they have their VIP package. But for their row 4 package, you're looking at, and this includes, let's see here, 3 drink tickets, and then it's only for one person, and you have to get there by 12 o'clock or else they'll give your ticket away. Is $600. So it's a rental fee, but like it says here on the description, you do get 3 drink tickets, valued up to $20 a drink. So no crazy old fashions, just a regular one. But it's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know if I would pay $600 to sit there all day, just because, again, I could just watch it someplace else. But for those of you wanting to watch it at Caesar's Palace, this would be the price if you wanted to get a leather reclining chair. That's cool, but like just not my style. I mean, if you want to do it, cool. I like to stand. You can stand around this bar. It's not a huge deal. You're going to get people doing it all the time, but it is an option. They do also have the VIP package. That looks like that one's $1,200, and that one also includes all-you-can-eat drink package and all that other stuff for the entire day, and that gives you sort of a space to walk around and sit and whatever. But I just wanted to give you an option of what that pricing would look like. The thing is that you're going to be able to watch the games anywhere on the property. You just you might have to do a little bit of looking. I know the Doghouse, which is over at Resorts World, which we love to talk shit about how terrible the Resort World Sportsbook is. But their bar portion of it does put down like a big screen, and you could watch, a couple different games on it. They do set up like multiple TVs around that space. And they're trying to utilize it a little bit more. But that one's fine. Also, the Wynn has a beautiful sports book. The only problem is that for football games, it's very, very limited. So unless you're sitting at the bar like at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to get a seat at the bar. Sometimes it's reserved. Not a lot of seats at the Wynn, the Wynn spot. So really, I would recommend. There's actually a really great place inside of the Miracle Mile shops just came to mind, and that is the Blondie's Bar. The Blondie's Bar, a lot of TVs, very much a sports bettors, sports book. Oh my goodness, a sports bar look to it, which is very, very, comforting. So try that place. They usually have spending minimums, but whatever. That's sort of the normal. But look for those type of bars that just are sort of that old school sports bar type. There's also a whiskey bar. What's it called again? Yeah, I think it's just called Whiskey Bar, which is right near Allegiant Stadium, which is gigantic. It has a lot of TVs, a little bit off the strip. Really great, especially if you're there before like a football game for when like the Raiders are in town. It'll be packed, like just absolutely insane. But old school, big spot. Might be a choice for somebody. So I don't know. It's up to you. But those are just a few of the options that I recommend. I'll actually also give you guys a couple little tips on if you come to Las Vegas and you want to bet on sports and you're familiar with it. If you have an app from your home state, when you come to Las Vegas, it doesn't always transfer easily. So just make sure you understand how it works for you. Bring extra cash just because, if you want to deposit or whatever. A lot of places like Circa, MGM, they require you to register in person for the app. I know Circa does this specifically. You have to go in person, show your ID, set up an account, before you get there. They have to authorize it, and then you can start using the app. So important to note that using the app from your home state into Nevada is very, very different and a totally different process. So it's a really good way of not getting shut out of things, and that's what I would highly recommend you do, especially if you're somebody who doesn't want to wake up early or wants to make bets, at the fingertips or likes to live bet. Really recommend getting here. If you get here on a Friday, on that Friday, go to that sports book, register, do what you have to do so you're ready for Saturday and Sunday so you don't get closed out the window, because those lines will be extremely long if you still bet in person. And I recommend, if you come to Las Vegas and you are betting in person, don't want to get the app, bet with an actual teller, an actual human being, especially if it's like your first time. Don't go to the kiosk just because you think it's easy, because you're just going to get confused and bet the wrong thing. Go up to a real person just because, hey, when you go up to a real person, you'll get some assistance, you'll get some help, knowing what you have to do for next time, and if you want to do it on the kiosk or on your phone. And hey, if you bet enough, you'll get a drink ticket or two, depending on the place that you go to. So that has been my college football and NFL Week 1 preview of where to watch any of these games. Highly recommend you check out any of the websites that I recommended. So circalasvegas.com. Go to Caesars for any of their booking details. And of course, you can go to beerpark.com or Beer Park Las Vegas for their layout. So again, book early if you're a big group. Make sure you do things ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute. It's really, really important to actually get these things done before you actually come to Las Vegas. So again, follow me. I'm Brian_Ortega26. You can also check us out on Concierge Confidential _LV. And of course, you can also check us out on at Keys to Vegas on TikTok. I may actually just have this go again next week just because I'll be out of town. I'll be in San Diego. So if you see me out in town or see any of my content, I'll probably be in San Diego enjoying a little vacation before the grind starts again. So again, thank you so much for listening to Concierge Confidential. If you see me out in town, make sure to come say hello. And remember, keep it confidential.